I'm an Emmy award-winning camera operator with over 20 years experience at the highest network level. I've shot Super Bowls, Kentucky Derbies, Olympics, and even WrestleManias. I'm your host, Howie Zales, and I never thought of myself as an entrepreneur until recently, even though I own 3 television production businesses. Are you afraid to start your own business? Are you struggling? Do your friends and family not understand what you do? The Unexpected Entrepreneur Show will share stories and inspire people with the entrepreneurial bug to take that daunting leap. Welcome to the show. How did you get into this?
It was super unexpected. That's why I love the title of the show.
I say, man, if they can do it, I can do it.
I got to figure out how to spell that damn word if I'm going to be calling myself an entrepreneur.
I still can't. It's so funny.
My father was selling knishes and sold my mom a knish.
That's amazing. What a sale.
You had red hair for about the first 20 minutes I knew you, and then it went gray.
Hey, welcome to the show. Today's guest is my good friend and Rabbi Brian Leiken, who has been the Senior Rabbi at Temple Beth Sholom since 2012. He is passionate about social justice, Jewish history, and the study of modern American Judaism. As the religious leader of Temple Beth Sholom, Rabbi Leiken has transitioned the temple into a relational synagogue that has built upon the inner and intra-relationships between clergy and its members. Brian was ordained in 2007. Brian, welcome to the show.
So great to be here, Hal. Thanks for having me. And that was a fantastic intro. I feel like I just wanted to sit here and watch that for 3 hours. It's great. I think I'm a lot less exciting than that introduction was.
No.
But it's
You're
great
awesome.
to be here.
And,
it's great to be with you.
So honored that you made the time to join us.
Of course.
So what inspired you? What made your decision to get to become a rabbi?
If you would have told me that I was going to be a rabbi when I was a teenager, I would have run for the hills. The last thing I wanted to do. I felt disconnected from the synagogue, certainly from Judaism, but I, in college, took a really amazing course with a professor named Reuven Kimmelman on Jewish political ethics. And at the time I was doing theater as well. And I realized that I wanted to spend my life making a difference in people's lives and fighting for changes in the systems that govern people's lives. And so I entered rabbinical school with the thought that I would somehow perhaps be involved in both. And it was in rabbinical school I really found that I loved I love that opportunity to be a part of people's lives in sacred ways, whether it is during simchas, good, happy occasions, or challenges, such as deaths or illnesses and beyond. And I've also still had a chance to be involved in political work through the synagogue and through the Board of Rabbis and the Central Conference of American Rabbis, which is the organization that is sort of a union of rabbis around the country. But I love what I do mostly because of my opportunity to be a part of people's lives in meaningful ways.
Now, did you grow up wanting to become a rabbi? When did you make that transition? When did you?
No, it was in college. It was really when I started to realize that a lot of my interests, psychology, theater, politics, that here I could have a career that combined sort of all of them and allowed me to spend my days doing the things that I love to do. So it was mostly in college where I found that calling. But, I think being a rabbi, you never really know what the job is until you start doing it, because there is no way to prepare yourselves for the kinds of crazy situations and also the kinds of life situations that you find yourselves in with congregants, being there with them at these times in their lives when they're going through trauma and challenge, or when they're going through great joys, and they need somebody there to witness it and to be there with them through it.
Especially
it's
now,
a very
during
unusual
everything
job.
that we've, especially now during
Yes.
everything that we've lived through in the last 2 years. Sure, it's made it more difficult.
My job in the last 2 years has changed drastically. I think none of us could ever imagine we'd be doing what we're doing these days. But yeah, I have done more funerals in the last 2 years than perhaps I did in the first 7 years of my career. And I've also just been forced to, find ways of being there for congregants who are alone. I mean, this has been a incredibly challenging time for single people, who, especially people who are widows and lost a spouse and live alone. It has been incredibly hard for them to try and fill their days.
Mm-hmm.
Older people usually have the opportunity to go out. In our community, they go to the Jewish Community Center where there are activities, restaurants with their friends. But so many people in the last 2 years, especially in these winter months, have been stuck inside and needed some kind of outlet. And so whether it's calling them or it's creating programming at the synagogue, we have really been doing stuff. And then on top of that, just dealing with people's mental, emotional, spiritual health, and trying to keep people up spiritually, psychologically, right? To keep people feeling a sense of hope in a time in which hope is certainly seemingly depleted. So it's been a tough 2 years. You can see actually the last 2 years in my hair. I think the last 2 years have made my hair whiter than the first 44 years of my life. So
I get that.
Yeah. It's sort of like being. I feel like I've been president without the glory of being president.
Without the house.
The same. Yes, well, I just got my hair became white, like the president's hair becomes white. That's the only thing that I had in common with being a president. So yeah, it's been a tough year, but I have to say, this has been these 2 years have been a period of time in which we have discovered the power of technology, and specifically the power of the streaming platform to be able to engage people, and whether that's at services or it's through a variety of programs that we've done.
Yeah. So I want to ask you one question before we get to that part. So,
please.
we're friends, and I'm also a congregant member, and so anyone in the congregation who's been to a Friday night service or a Saturday morning bar mitzvah knows the story of your childhood. But for those that don't, how do you differ as a rabbi than what you grew up going to see?
Yes. Well, the typical traditional rabbi that you see certainly in the movies is, a guy with a big beard who's in his 70s, 80s, or 90s, who's distanced from congregants, who is somehow inaccessible because, traditionally that rabbi had a closer relationship to God than the rest of the congregation, even though they're not supposed to. Rabbis are not, like priests, or they don't have anything more sacred. But we treated rabbis with this reverence, and we made them so different. And when I grew up with a rabbi. His name was Armand Cohen in Park Synagogue in Cleveland, Ohio. He was on the pulpit as a rabbi. He worked in the synagogue for 72 years. 72 years. If I work that long, I will. First of all, my family will leave me, but second of all, it most certainly will destroy me. But he was born to be that traditional rabbi. He spoke with a voice like this, and you never saw him in any context but as a rabbi. So if you saw him and he would be eating at the local restaurant, and had to be kosher, he would say, "Hello, Brian, how are you?" And he wasn't a real person. He was this inaccessible sort of deified figure. And for me, I always thought of being the kind of rabbi who people could see themselves in, right? That's a real human being, somebody who is vulnerable and could share I've been very interested in sharing my own struggles and things that I go through, so that people feel as though I'm somebody who they can speak to and somebody they can share with and somebody who models a life that they see themselves modeling as well, right, for their kids or whoever. And it's a very different way of being a clergy person. I think more rabbis and certainly priests and ministers today have chosen my mode than have chosen the old one, in large part because society as a whole doesn't accept that old model. We don't look at figures and want that. We want people who are accessible. We want people who don't have these borders put up, who are like us, right?
Right.
And that's something about our I think, just the modern world.
So how do you go about engaging with the congregation?
Well, it's hard. So these days, I mean, it's in the past, I've wanted to really stress being together with people. And so when congregants would come to services, I would want to spend time with them. I would get off what we call the bima, which is the pulpit, and I would go walk, amongst the congregants and spend time talking to them, or sometimes just touching them on the shoulder, just building connection. And I think in our world today, people have lost connections with one another. Right? Communities have been decimated just by rampant individuality and this sense that the world's only about me and my family and nobody else. And so the ways that I've tried to engage the congregation has been to hold meetings with people where we just sit and get to know each other for half hour, 40 minutes, to involve them in various committees and projects to try and get them, here more often so that I can see them more often. So what did COVID do? It decimated that. It made it impossible to be physically with other people. And we had to, as a synagogue and as a community, figure out how to handle that, how to handle this change. And the truth is that many a synagogue, church, mosque, all these religious communities, they've been really struggling because of this. It has
So
really.
what was your strategy? How did you go about pivoting to do that?
Well, as we all have seen, everybody moved towards. It was very strange because Zoom was founded started maybe a couple of years before COVID hit, but it just seems like it was like no one heard of it, right? I had done a couple meetings on it, and I was like, this is weird. Like, there's people in little boxes. I don't want to do this. It was almost like the world converged, like Zoom and COVID sort of hit at the same time. There can be lots of conspiracy theories about that, by the way.
Yeah.
But I think, we certainly turned towards that as a means of connecting, and as many a synagogue did, holding services on Zoom, being able to see one another. The problem with Zoom for religious services is the quality, which is really horrible. So Zoom, the audio on Zoom is meant to be for a group, for many people. So what it does is it changes sort of the sound waves when different people are talking. Now, if you're trying to play music, which we do a lot, the music sounds horrible. I mean, I held a service last week over Zoom, and in the middle of the service, people were texting me saying, that sounds horrible. Either your piano's out of tune or you just are out of tune. So we realized that we needed to look at another avenue. And that's when you and I started to talk and meet, and we developed this live streaming strategy where we would be in our sanctuary and we would live stream. And eventually we brought in separate cameras so that we could have cameras giving different angles and all the wonderful parts of having a live stream, television-esque production. The problem of doing that, though, is that you end up with a very passive congregation. Remember, I said the most important aspect of my rabbinate is engaging people, right?
Right.
Being with people, making them feel important and loved and cared about, and making them feel that they matter. You can't do that if you're just a screen and you are just talking to them, or you're just playing music to them, and you can't either see them or hear back from them. So early on, when we were live streaming, people were texting me, and I would sit there at services, and I would be, running through the service, and the whole time I'd be like, "Oh, Joan Lipson says Shabbat Shalom." Oh, everybody wanted to give me that, and it was nice at first because people, but by like 6 months in, people are like, "Enough with the text. Put down your phone," right?
So you're a rabbi, TV director, and social media manager.
Yes, and I was, and I was also, because you have a real job, so you couldn't do it for me all the time, even though you did it a lot. But I was also running and then changing the cameras, and then
Right.
and then people started texting me about the quality of the stream. So one person says the sound is horrible. You sound horrible. Speak louder. Get closer to the mic. And I was finding myself just in like technological like nightmares. I was very lucky to have. I did AV in 7th grade, and it was a time in which the most I had like print shop that I would use during like a movie, but I felt that it finally paid off, because in 7th grade being in the AV club just got me beat up, but now being in the AV club I had a little more of a sense of the flow of stuff. So but it that challenge has still been there, and we are exploring all new sorts of ideas about ways to engage people and keep them connected. Because what I don't want the synagogue to become is just another TV channel. I don't want it to become just another thing you sit at home watching. And I know there are some people in the world of religion who do this well, who are just another TV channel that you turn on Sunday morning. But the question I think we face in this new world is how to engage people when they are in different places. Right.
Yeah, I just did a podcast
with different
as a guest
with different internet bandwidths.
Well, that's the whole. And on this podcast I did, the host asked me, how can you help people live stream? What advice would you give? And I said, audience engagement is what keeps people's attention, and engaging the audience during the actual live stream itself absolutely will help with that.
Yeah, and one of the most amazing things about this period of time, I've gotten a lot of interesting people to come and speak to the congregation, people that you might never expect to say yes to me. People like actress Deborah Messing and reporter Geraldo Rivera, and weird people that I had strange connections to. And sometimes I wonder to myself, why do they say yes? Why are so many people saying yes to me to come and have an interview? And I realized, what people really like? They like to talk about themselves, and they like to be heard.
True.
And they like it because it feels good. It makes you feel good. And in this world, especially right now, we don't have that opportunity. We don't have that opportunity. We've been stuck in our houses. I know COVID's gone up and down, but now it seems to be up. We haven't had this, ongoing opportunity to feel cared about and loved. And unfortunately, most of the streaming world today doesn't necessarily recognize that. And so they think everything's just we'll send out stuff and hopefully people will connect with it while they watch passively at home. And our job, certainly from the synagogue, is to create ways of bringing people in, of making them feel like they're a part of it. And whether that's me giving a sermon that people connect to and feel is part of their life, or whether it's really finding ways to bring them in and have their voices and their stories be told on the live stream that they're watching. So that's our challenge now.
Right. What advice do you think that you didn't get in rabbinical school that you could have used, or would you give to your younger self?
I know. Yeah. Stop stressing. Stay calm.
Yeah.
Stay calm. And that's, by the way, not just for a rabbi. That is for the world as a whole. I think we have a tendency just to become so anxious and so just completely overwhelmed by stress and anxiety and nerves, and it hurts us in more ways than we think. It hurts our ability to do our jobs well. It hurts our ability to interact with others. There's a very powerful book that I read after rabbinical school that's called The Rabbi as Symbolic Exemplar. And the one point made in that book is that the role of the rabbi, and this is the role of anybody who's playing a leadership role, is to be a non-anxious presence, right? So,
Yep.
I did a funeral for an 18-year-old the second year of my rabbinate. And at the funeral, the mother of this child was standing right next to me. And in the middle of the service, she just grabbed me and held on for dear life. And I'm standing there with her, and the thoughts that were going through my head were, whoa, who does she think I am? I'm nothing
Right.
special. I have no answers for why her 18-year-old child died, right? Why this horrible, horrible thing happened. And then I realized afterwards the role that I was playing was that just non-anxious person who she needed, right? We need people in our lives who remind us that there's people in our lives who remind us that that life doesn't just need to be like this.
Yeah. Day by day.
Yeah, day by day. And I've taken a lot of advice from my father over the years as well, who's going to be 80 on the 19th. He's told me over the years, he's just said, listen, life is full of anxiety, and sometimes in my career, I've let it, take over, but it's not worth it. It really isn't, because life is not about just working and making money. Life is about joy and purpose and happiness. Not everything's going to be comfortable in life, but that's okay. That's okay.
Totally.
It's a hard lesson and it's a hard, especially for younger people, I think, because I think young people get into like their work lives, and I think they easily get stressed about everything, and they think everything is a crisis, and
Right.
and those kinds of people who everything that bad that happens is the biggest crisis in the world, and it's just not a way to live. Right?
No. I minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And embrace the things that matter.
Yeah, exactly. And family and health, and
Yep.
that's what comes first.
Absolutely.
Any mentors that you that you have?
Sure. There's a member of our congregation who was a very successful CEO and founder of a major business, who has been a major mentor to me, and has reminded me of the importance of having a vision. I think the thing that he's given me from the beginning has been just the importance of believing in something in the future, and not just doing to do.
Right.
I've also had a lot of rabbis, certainly in rabbinical school, who've been major mentors to me. Rabbi David Saperstein, who was the head of the Religious Action Center of Reform Judaism, and actually was responsible for introducing my wife, Shara, to me, who worked for him. So he ran a organization that gave college, post-college internships 1 year after college. I worked for him and worked in Washington, D.C. and learned how to lobby members of Congress and how to speak to congressional offices about the issues that the Reform movement cares about, the Reform Jewish movement. And he was a major inspiration for me and led me down sort of the path of realizing that I could still care about social justice and even if I'm a congregational rabbi.
Well, Brian, I'm so honored that you took the time to talk to us today. Is there anything that I didn't ask that you want to talk about?
No, well, I want to. So, one of the reasons that we are where we are today is because of you, obviously, and what you've been given to us. Howie, really, I think you came into this this new career of yours, this live streaming career, like right at the exact same time as we were dealing with the challenges of COVID, and you have helped us just to rethink about how to engage people and how to stay with them and how to, again, make them feel heard and listened to and loved with the use of technology, right? And I think you've reminded me that with our heads, that we can come up with new paradigms and new ways of thinking and new ways of connecting. Because ultimately, I think the work that you do is very similar to the work that I do, right? You were looking to engage and connect and bring people in. And that's such an important thing for everyone to be doing these days because people feel disconnected and disengaged.
I agree. But we're so honored and grateful. Thank you, Brian. And
thanks, my friend.
It means the world to me, seriously.
Oh, me too. Thanks, Al.
Love
Appreciate it. Okay, love you too.
Okay. So thanks again for joining us today. Thanks again to Brian, who was our guest. If you have any live stream or event planning needs, contact the team at Veridity Entertainment Services. The team at VES will put together your live stream and event needs and plan your production from the beginning to end. Contact VESVeridityEntertainment.com.
Why let any social media platform control the ads on your content? Constantly evolving algorithm changes can have a huge negative impact on your following. All you need is your own content network, and Veridity Entertainment Services, VES, can help you create that. Content delivery has never been so easy and powerful. Our state-of-the-art technology can help you create an amazing private labeled experience. We create virtual or hybrid events and corporate meetings with guests from around the world to take your content to the next level. Control, elevate, and own your own content.
Thanks for joining us today. Thanks to Brian again for being our guest, and we look forward to seeing you next week.